Hi everyone! I've gotten a lot of questions about the biothane modifications that I've done to some of Kono's muzzles, and we got a new muzzle recently, so today I thought I would take you how we swap the regular straps with biothane and add a quick release buckle. I know some of you are interested but might be a little intimidated, so hopefully this shows you how easy it is and that you'll be encouraged to try it yourself. So here are all the things we need to start a muzzle. Next is some biothane, a quick release buckle, scissors, these are just my kitchen scissors. This is a rotary punch, a flathead screwdriver, and Chicago screws. And details for all of the specifics of these things I'll leave in the description. Alright, so first things first, I'm just gonna cut the straps off of this muzzle. I know I'm never gonna use them again. I hate these little belt buckle things that are on here, and I only use quick releases, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut the straps off. If you want to try to save the straps, then one option would be to use a drill and drill through the rivets. I have done that in the past. It took me quite a while, so if you are trying to do it that way, just be patient, go slow, you'll get there eventually. It's not difficult, it's just time consuming. But if you know you're just going to use the quick release all the time and don't feel the need to save these, then just go ahead and cut through them and get rid of them. Alright, so next we're going to need to measure out our biothane. I'll be honest, I don't have like a specific tip or trick to do this. I basically just already know what little hole on the regular straps that my dog uses consistently, and so I just make sure that I cut a piece of biothane that's longer than that strap. That way I have enough to fold over on each side to attach the Chicago screw, and it's always better to cut too much than to have a strap that's too short. So always just over measure. You can always cut it down later. And then here on this side, I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm just sort of measuring the same amount that that other buckle was and giving myself a little bit extra so that I have some room to work with. So here I'm just kind of getting a feel for the layout of where the straps are going to go and what they're going to look like, just kind of visualizing it in my head. So here is where the first Chicago screw is going to go. I just fold over the biothane where I'm going to want it to attach. So you can see I kind of put the little flap on the inside. That way it's just a more streamlined look on the outside while she's wearing it. Then I take my rotary punch, and here I'm not actually punching a hole through it. I'm just using it and pressing down firmly enough to just mark a little spot of where the hole that I'm going to punch is going to go. And I kind of do the same thing on the back side as well. So I'm just making sure that they line up, taking my time here to make sure I've got it in a good spot. And then once we take the biothane off of the muzzle here, I'll go ahead and punch the holes. So here you can see I'm punching the holes. This rotary punch is a little difficult to use, and I will say I don't really recommend it, or I have heard other people have had success with other rotary punches, so I don't have a good recommendation for that. This one is pretty terrible and doesn't even punch through the biothane all the way, so you'll see me often having to like pick the little pieces out of the biothane. Another option would be getting a like just a regular punch that you would hit with a mallet. Honestly, I should probably just invest in one of those in the future. So now I'm grabbing my quick release buckle and taking it apart here. And on the longer side, whichever strap is your longer side, typically like where the adjustable side of your regular strap was, so the side that already had the holes in it, the quick release buckle that I have here has an adjustable side, which is really nice. It makes it so that you don't have to get the length of each strap perfect, and I can then fine tune it on my dog later since one of the sides is adjustable. So I'm just kind of threading it through and just getting a good idea of what the strap is going to look like before I move any further. So this right here, you'll see, I think they call it like a strap keeper. And that's just going to slide on the adjustable end before I put the buckle on, and that's just going to hold any of the excess strap that you have, and it's just going to hold it in place. So now I'm grabbing my Chicago screws. And then I'm just gonna loop that biothane piece on where we had it before. I like having the flat side of the Chicago screws on the outside. I think it just looks nicer, and then having like the actual screw portion on the inside so that when it's on her, you can't really see it. So I'm using just standard biothane here. I'm not using heavy duty biothane. If you do use heavy duty biothane, it will not fit through this quick release buckle that I am using currently, so you might have to find a different option if you wanted to use the heavy duty biothane. But for the standard biothane, a 6mm length Chicago screw will fit perfectly. And then if you are using the heavy duty biothane, an 8mm Chicago screw will work for that. So here you can see the extra length that I have on the adjustable end, and that keeper is just gonna hold it nice and flush to keep it managed. So moving on to the next side, my cut here was a little sloppy, so I'm just trimming it up to make it a little bit nicer. And then I'm basically just gonna do the same thing, just visualizing where I want the strap to go. And then I will mark with my hole punch again where that Chicago screw is gonna be. Like I mentioned before, this rotary punch is not the best, so I do recommend getting one of the hole punches that you just hit with a mallet. You can find them usually at your local hardware store. Just make sure that whatever size hole punch you're using is the same diameter as your Chicago screws. So my Chicago screws are 4mm in diameter, and then the rotary punch is also set to 4mm so that the hole sizes will match up. So here I'm just attaching it to the muzzle, just like we did before with the other side, using the Chicago screw. To be honest, I probably should have waited to attach it and hole punched the other side that will be attached to the other half of the quick release first. I think that would have been a little bit easier, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. So here I'm just attaching the other side of the quick release. There are some quick releases that have adjustable ends on both sides, but I haven't really found that necessary for Kona's muzzle. I think one side being adjustable is plenty to be able to fine tune it to fit her perfectly. So here, before I put the final Chicago screw in, I'm just having her try it on just to make sure that it's about the right length and that I didn't make it way too long and need to trim off a bunch of excess. So I'm just getting a good idea of if it's about the right length that I need, and it looked pretty good, so I'm just going to go ahead and punch those holes and put that Chicago screw in. If you haven't done this before and are worried about making the straps too long or too short, I definitely recommend trying it on your dog multiple times throughout the process, just to make sure that you get a good length on each side. Remember, it's always better to have it be too long than too short. One, because you have that adjustable end and you can always just make it shorter, but two, you can also just trim off any excess that you need to. This is where you can see I'm kind of struggling with this rotary. It's not punching all the way through the biothane, so I had to kind of give it a couple tries here before I could get that little piece of biothane out, but we made it there eventually. Try a different rotary punch or a mallet punch if you're going to attempt this yourself. Just putting on the other half of that quick release and then attaching another Chicago screw. And like I said before, I like all the extra little ends to be on the inside as well as the actual screw head of the Chicago screw. I think it just makes for a cleaner look at the end. And with that, there we have it. Replaced the straps on a muzzle with biothane and a quick release. So you can see here now I'm just kind of fine-tuning that fit on Kona and adjusting the straps. At first it was too long, and then I adjusted it. It was a little bit too short. Just keep working it until you get it right on your dog. And then finally we have a good fit. And then I just tucked the excess of that adjusted strap into that collar keeper. Here's Kona modeling it for us. As you can see here, this muzzle is actually a little bit short for her, and her nose does hit the end of it sometimes. And that's because this muzzle we got specifically to fit with her rec specs, and so the rec specs push it down her nose a little bit, so it ends up being a good fit in the end. If you're interested in seeing more of Kona, you can follow us on Instagram at Kona the Cowardly Dog. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something, and hopefully this will help you out when you attempt muzzle mods on your own.